Good evening. I'm Dan Porterfield, President of Franklin and Marshall College, and welcome to our online office hours. For the next hour, we'll be talking about some of the greatness of F&M and responding to your questions. It's exciting to have alums, parents, members of the Lancaster community, students logging on to hear a little bit about F&M's work today and to meet some of the greatest members of our community. If you'd like to ask a question over the next hour, you can do so very easily. Just submit your question to officehours@fnm.edu or by tweeting using the hashtag #FandMLive. Now, I'd like to give you a quick overview of some of the most recent achievements of the school and then introduce our panelists and start to take your questions. 2014 was quite a year of achievement. We rose 8 places in the U.S. News and World Report ranking of national liberal arts colleges to 37th. We were ranked 26th among colleges and universities in the New York Times Opportunity Index, and we rose 20 places in the Forbes ranking of colleges and universities to number 56. We also secured some of the largest endowment gifts in school history, which was great because endowment donations enable perpetual excellence for the school. We established a new faculty center and secured $1 million of competitive funding in order to create and establish that center and recruit Amy Molnix to be our first founding director. We also established a partnership with Lancaster General Health to develop a new student health and counseling center on Harrisburg Pike, which will replace the Apple infirmary and allow us to offer state-of-the-art health and wellness and counseling services to our students. It was very exciting this year to see our athletics teams succeeding on the field, in the pool, on the court, and off. And also it was terrific to see some of our student organizations, like our debate team, competing at the very highest level in the nation. In fact, right now, F&M Debate's the #1 ranked liberal arts college debate program in the country. We also won 11 national fellowships last year and are showing very strong again this year as our students compete for opportunity with the strongest students in the country. In terms of our student recruitment, 2014 was a really remarkable year. This year we have 7,121 applicants to F&M for the class of 2019, and that is the largest number of applicants in school history by 30%. And one reason why is because the word is getting out that F&M has an outstanding academic program, tremendous faculty-student interaction, a very supportive community, and the chance for each student to be known and valued as an individual and to create the education that she seeks. Now today, I've gathered 4 leaders in our community. I'll introduce them briefly. This is Brandon Federici, who's a first-year student from New Jersey. You might have heard his name from our men's basketball program, which just completed a very successful 20-6 season. Brandon was named All-Conference and Conference Rookie of the Year, and is averaged about 19.5 points a game, which makes him the single highest scoring first-year student in the land, in all divisions. Even the gentlemen at Duke and Georgetown and Kansas don't have anybody averaging 19.5 points a game. Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To my right is Christina Diaz, a junior Spanish major from Miami, Florida, who is a member of our first STEM Posse group, which has established national recognition. She is a leader in her sorority. She is a hall advisor in her college house. She's a peer mentor of a number of our younger students and a great all-around person. Christina, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
This is Margaret Hazlett, the Dean of the College. Margaret came to us 2 years ago from Bowdoin College, where she served as a leader in student life. Her degrees are from Harvard University and Princeton University. And the Dean of the College role is a big one. She oversees everything from our college house system to athletics, our student health system, to our Greek system. She's active in developing our leadership programs and in responding to the individual needs of students. And Margaret, thank you for being here. And then finally, to my right is Dr. Joel Martin, who is our provost and dean of the faculty, which means he's the chief academic officer of the institution. Joel is one of the most eminent scholars in the country in Native American history, tradition, spirituality, and culture. He was actually a faculty member at F&M in the 80s and 90s for more than 12 years. And then after serving in leadership roles in the University of California and the University of Massachusetts, we recruited him back into this role as our Chief Academic Officer. Joel, thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
So let's get right to it. Kathy from the class of 1988 wrote and said, "My favorite part about F&M was the intellectual relationship I developed with my professors." Brandon, since you're the youngest, let's go first with you. What's it like to be a student at F&M?
I mean, it's honestly just incredible. I've only been here about 2 semesters, and it's ridiculous how I could already say, you know, my teachers have had that much of an impact on me. I mean, one specifically comes to mind and happens to be your chief of staff, Dr. Hauser. He teaches the new Connections course that we, you know, recently enrolled here at F&M, a foundations requirement. It's called Revolutions of Thought. It's a philosophy class. And it's amazing how it gets me thinking about the world and how we come to know everything. And, you know, before I came here, you know, I kind of know what I wanted to major in, business, sorta. I wanted to do Italian. But this philosophy class, you know, it's got me thinking, and I think it has benefits far beyond, you know, the college, which is why after, you know, this class, I'm really thinking about doing a joint major between business and philosophy. So it's amazing. Freshman year, I already know, wow, this teacher has such an impact on me that I could, you know, go talk to him whenever I want, office hours, and he's just been so helpful in me thriving in the community.
So when you're running up and down the court in the heat of battle, or maybe shooting a foul shot with the game on the line, does Dr. Hauser's face ever come into your mind?
I mean, I'll remember how, you know, Parmenides thinks, or I'll remember how Socrates goes about a situation, and maybe that'll help me think about approaching the foul shot.
Well, there you go. Coach Glenn Robinson would be very proud of that answer, I'm sure. So, Christina, you've been here 6 semesters and you've worked with a lot of different faculty. Could you talk about one member of the faculty who has had an important influence on your success at F&M?
I think if I were to pick one, because it's so hard to pick one, I think the main person that's coming to mind is Dr. Hess, and he was my posse mentor.
What does he teach?
He teaches chemistry. He is a professor of chemistry, and Lord knows I love his chemistry jokes. They're very funny. But he's just served as like a support and a great person to be around, and great energy, just keeping me going. And it's hard being away from home and mom, but he's been there as a rock and just telling me to keep going.
Now, am I remembering correctly that you and 9 other students, or your classmates, met as a group each week with Dr. Hess in your first and second year? And what were you doing together with him?
Well, the one meeting I can remember is it was led by scholars. So posse scholars are allowed to lead a meeting going into the last semester of the weekly meetings with your posse mentor. And 2 of my posse members led a Pictionary meeting. And we were all playing Pictionary, and all I can remember is Professor Hess drawing, and no one could understand it except for my posse member, Eddie. And we were all like, how do you understand it? It was just a great old time laughing. And you would think someone who's so rigorous or claimed to be rigorous in the classroom, he like pulled through and like did beautiful artwork. It was good.
Yeah, and now you're a Spanish major.
Yes.
And when did you realize you wanted to major in Spanish?
It just felt right.
Yeah.
I'm a bilingual student, and Spanish was always a love of mine, and I figured why not continue it, and I met such wonderful people in the Spanish department. It was my calling.
You know, the magic of F&M is this extraordinary academic experience that has endured through the decades with rigorous faculty, dynamic classes, and a grounding of intellectual excellence. That's at the core of the school. It doesn't happen by accident, though. We work at it. And Joel, maybe say a little bit about the role of the Faculty Center in cultivating faculty excellence for this era.
Well, Dan, that's great. I'm just thrilled to hear the students attest to what we know is true here at F&M. The faculty really care about the students. Yes, we're rigorous, but we're rigorous because we believe there's no cap to what students can achieve, what they can learn. Yeah. The Faculty Center provides a place for faculty to renew their pedagogy, to share best practices, to think about how to deliver the Connections curriculum, which they designed, that's new, think how to meet the needs of international students, diverse students, students who are new to F&M. That's what they do. It's really great. The Faculty Center that you mentioned received $1 million of competitive funding, for constant renewal of the faculty.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Now, one of our alums, Eugene from San Francisco, is telling us speak up. So everybody, let's speak up. So Eugene is happy with us. I want to turn it to Margaret. About 10 years ago, this college embarked upon a remarkable experiment in residential living when we phased out our traditional dorm system, which is pretty much the norm across higher education, and replaced it with a new system, the college house system, in which students have the opportunity, supported by a faculty don and a dean, to create a community based on respect, consideration, learning, growth. And now you've been here for 2 years and you've seen it in action and started to help it develop. Could you explain to the alums who are watching what the college house system is about and what it is that you like about it?
Sure. Dan, you said the word right off,
Yeah.
which is about building community.
Yeah.
And it helps incoming students in a class of 600 or more to immediately have a smaller community that they can feel a part of.
Yeah.
And not only feel a part of, but contribute. I mean, already first years in Brandon's class, we had 16 first years who wanted to be part of their parliament presidents. And so they immediately want to get involved. The connections course happens in the college house. And so what I love about the college house system is it blurs the lines between the curricular and the co-curricular.
Yeah.
Students can immediately get engaged, whether it's through their intellectual life or the social life, right in their college house.
And what about the actual physical spaces? Is it the same dorms that people remember?
It is some of
Yeah.
the same dorms, but with some new common spaces. Each house has a great room. They have a seminar room for the connections course and other courses that take place in the college house. There's a smaller sort of study. Each one has a fireplace, which I love,
Yeah.
and have hot cocoa in one of them on Sunday evenings. So they each also have some common meeting spaces
Yeah.
for students just to hang out.
I've been impressed with the actual quality of the facilities, the kitchen, the film area, the sound systems, the fireplaces. I mean, it feels like a place that you take care of.
They do, and
Yeah.
Brandon and Christine can attest to that.
Yeah.
It's their home, right? You come into those doors, and that is your home. Ware College, Brooks College, and they take care of the space because of that.
So Brandon, what's your college house?
I'm in Brooks College House.
And what's it like?
I mean, exactly what Dean Hazlett said. And honestly, it fosters, immediate social comfort. It fosters, fun competition between the students, and even the students can help each other with academics. They could play together, they could play sports, they could do other extracurricular activities. But like she said, it's our home away from home. In a place such as every college where students go in feeling maybe a little uneasy or they don't know what to expect. This little community that is formed, it's tremendous for the initial growth of the students and the growth in the future.
And does Brooks College House have its own distinct form of government?
I mean, ours Brooks House government is just our government.
Yeah.
Ware has parliament. Other one like Boncheck will have like their own form of government. I'm in Brooks House government. I was a freshman representative. But it goes down the line. They take it very seriously, and we tackle real issues.
Yeah.
To help the community and to just foster these activities I'm talking about in the house, and it really just it's a good thing. You need it as a freshman.
Yeah,
you really do.
that's fantastic. Who's your roommate?
Will Samuels, he's
Yeah.
a tennis player here. Hi, Will. How you doing? I know you wanted the shout out. Really good kid, and the roommate selection process was,
Yeah.
I mean, especially for me, tremendous. So we bonded instantly when we saw each other. We're very compatible, and they take into consideration so many things when they do your roommate. So it's basically like having another best friend picked out for you,
Yeah.
which who doesn't want that?
Yeah. And Christine, am I right that the students pick the roommates?
So the way it works is they have orientation planning
Yeah.
directors in each of the houses, and the orientation planning directors make phone calls to each of the students. Or I know in Brooks they do Skype interviews, I believe.
Yeah.
And then that's how they see who would fit well, and then that's how they
Yep.
pair
And-
them up.
And you're an HA.
Yes, I am.
And so, what's that role, and why did you decide you wanted to do it?
So being an HA is basically, I like to call it the mom of the hall.
Yeah.
And I oversee 17 students, first-year students, and I also have a room with upperclassmen. And it's just making sure that the hall is safe and no one is getting hurt. And you also serve as a mental, social, emotional support system for the students. I know I have an open door policy. My students can knock on my door anytime or just come in and we can chat about anything.
So why did you want to do it?
I wanted to do it because my first year I had an incredible hall. They're all my best friends still today. And it's just, I wanted to create that sense of family and community with this first year class.
Yeah. And what are some of the adjustments that students experience going away to college for the first time?
Well, one is being away from whoever you're really close to back at home, whether that be friends or family, your dog. That's one thing. And then plus academics, coming here and the rigor of the academics, you need a support system for that. And also just meeting new people and stepping outside of your comfort zone is just, it's a lot to handle as a first year.
I find a lot of students are, to some extent, smart students, but spoon-fed in high school with their time managed very sort of carefully by the school and by their homework.
Yes.
And so they don't have free time. They're constantly scheduled. They come to college and they're not in class as much, but then they have to read an enormous amount and learn an enormous amount between class meetings. Is that part of the adjustment too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's hard to balance, when am I going to eat? When am I going to socialize? When am I going to go to sleep? Am I going to go to sleep?
Yeah.
So time management is also another adjustment.
Now, do you think, Margaret, that the college house system provides some support overall for that dimension of college experience? Is that one of the things about it that's better?
Absolutely, because you have a smaller community that's overseen by the Don and the Dean, so they know each student in the college house. I was thinking of our international students. They're making a transition, becoming more familiar with the weather, the food, and that they have a community of support with the HAs, with the administrative staff and the faculty, as well as the connections faculty who are also connected to the college houses.
Speaking of the weather, today is a hailstorm, freezing weather. Winter will not end. You're from Miami,
Yes.
but you're suffering through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spring break is coming, and then after that, I promise, beautiful weather. You'll see, Brandon.
I
Beautiful.
hope so.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Margaret mentioned international students, and that's an important component of our student community. About 15% of our students today hail from countries all around the world. There's something like 40 different countries in the first year class alone. And Joel, I might ask you a little bit about what do you see as the benefits in this era of Franklin and Marshall having a global footprint in terms of student recruitment and then having global classrooms?
It seems absolutely essential in today's world. We're so connected, and students will benefit by having encounters with folks from around the world and also from going to study abroad. Some faculty have developed some really interesting courses. We've got a colleague in Russian who's developed a course that takes students to St. Petersburg in the summer, and they have a really rich cultural experience, immersion in the language. We've got several examples of that program. We're continuing to foster this type of interchange that we think is essential to be educated in today's global world.
I thought it was so interesting when I first came here 4 years ago to see that we had summer classes in South Africa, in Ecuador. We had students doing research in the North Pole. We had amazing amount of variety in what students do with their learning. How about study abroad? Is that still strong at F&M?
It's growing stronger, and I think Christina can actually speak to this. We've got an opportunity through our colleague in Spanish, perhaps, to have a program in Cuba you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
So Professor Thumer, she's from the Spanish department. She's looking to help me apply to a program with Cuba to study at the University of Havana. And it's just to immerse myself in the culture. I am Cuban, and I've never been, and I think it's an important piece to my education, and I'm glad F&M can hopefully grant that for me.
Well, it's spectacular. And of course, with there being a bit of a liberalization in how the American government interacts with the Cuban government, we may find more opportunities for student study abroad and for faculty research in Cuba in the coming years. For someone coming from Miami, that seems like that will really give you another fantastic experience to bring back home.
Yes.
Well, and you probably know some international students. If I'm remembering right, the center on the basketball team is an international student.
Yes.
Say a little bit about Cedric.
I mean, Cedric is just the epitome of what you'd say is a balanced student here at F&M. He's so good at basketball. He's a great student, and just a great kid in general. And I mean, it's amazing how many international students I will encounter in just a regular day at F&M, and it's just amazing the connection that I can make because whether American students want to go work or go study abroad, or whether the abroad students want to come work or study here. It fosters that connection between you, and it's really beneficial for the future.
Yeah. Let's take it in another direction, but it kind of pivots off of that. F&M has gotten a lot of recognition for our talent strategy. There was a front page story in the Washington Post on December 30th that called our approach to finding talent a, quote, revolution in student recruitment. New York Times profiled our work. Inside Higher Ed and the Chronicle of Higher Education also wrote about F&M strategies. Basically what it comes down to is we very much significantly increased need-based financial aid in order to have a stronger budget to allow us to say to every student, you pay what you can afford. And then we've been able to reach out around the country to a wider range of schools and programs and communities and families at home and abroad to make sure that smart students know that F&M exists and offers a fantastic value proposition, a fantastic education that will empower you for life. Challenging, fun, and for the long term, very much empowering. And I think that's one reason why we've received 7,100 applications this year. Let me ask you to reflect a little bit about the idea of the talent in our student body. It takes different forms, there's different types of talent. We are all growing in some ways, and other ways very, very strong. All of us are works in progress, but we can add so much to each other. Maybe I start with Joel and ask you, what do you think about in terms of the depth of talent in today's F&M?
It's very exciting. The English department had a retreat, and they told me that every single faculty member said that they're energized by the student body they have today more than ever. And these are colleagues I've known for 20 years, and some of them have been here for 30 years. The students are just so great, and they inspire each other to rise to a higher level, and that challenges the faculty member to rethink the pedagogy and how to reach and connect with them. So it's just been a great transformation in F&M. And students have always been good, don't get me wrong. But now with the talent strategy, they're even better, and it's re-energizing everything we do here.
Well, it's so important to have a deep student body. To have, if possible, every single student profoundly engaged in learning. I was talking to Mark Olson in biology over the weekend, and he said to me that he's noticed, and his colleagues commented, that more and more the students coming in to talk about an exam are not asking to have their grade adjusted. They're asking, how can I take it to the next level? And that he said that dissipates the slight tension between student and faculty, because you're not negotiating a grade anymore, but you're talking about how they can together, student and faculty together, we can get to that next level.
And Dan, if I can add one thing, faculty and students are co-publishing together.
Amazing.
In leading journals. Students have access to the best scientific equipment in the labs and a great student-faculty ratio. And we're actually seeing students publishing with their faculty.
I think we have 100 students a summer who stay to do Hackman Scholarship or other kinds of scholarship programs where they work with faculty. Margaret, you've seen some of this up close. Any thoughts about how you think about the qualities and attributes of our student body today?
To me, it's the level of engagement outside the classroom, and just to see students active across the different areas, to go to see Brandon's success on the basketball court, but then to go to the dance performance and just be blown away by the level of skill and talent on the stage, as well as the theater production of Bye Bye Birdie this January as well. So to me, it's the level of engagement, and that students don't just pigeonhole in one area. Brandon's interested, he's playing basketball, but he also wants to be an HA. Christina's interests. Yesterday I was with a group of student leaders talking about the alcohol policy on campus and thinking about the students around that table. Mark Rooney, who's president of the IFC, also plays trumpet in the orchestra, is also doing an internship with the Lancaster Land Conservancy. So just seeing their different levels of engagement is amazing.
So what's it been like for you to meet kids with a variety of backgrounds and interests and strengths?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, we just touched on the ethnic diversity of the school with the international students, but you really have to look at the diversity of talent in this school. I mean, simply in my friend group, one of my best friends, Zach Holden, he's a soccer player here. But if you were to engage him in a political discussion, you'd be here for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because he's so knowledgeable. It's one of the best political minds I've ever seen. You know, today with him, I actually just watched the Israeli Prime Minister's speech to the Republican Party. It's just, you know, things like that. I mean, one of my teammates, Andrew Daniel, he's a real businessman. He's a venture capitalist from Thailand. He does real business. We're actually making a club, the F&M Investment Club. We're actually going to meet about it right after this this webcast. But it's crazy how many different skills that people have that come here. And it's not just sports. It's not just being book smart. It's incredible.
Yeah, some of the work in the arts is mind blowing. Ani Akpen's a freshman. He's already achieved a great deal as a documentarian.
Yeah.
Hannibal Robinson is a junior. He's cut his first CD. Kelsey Lee Reber, a junior, has published 2 novels. Well, one is published and the second's being published right now. Incredible. Christina, you just spent last weekend at what we call the Posse Plus retreat with about 130 or 140 fellow students talking through some of the great issues of the day. It must have felt pretty special to be in that group for 2 full days, really talking through important ideas.
Yeah, I think we were talking about crime and punishment, and it was interesting to see faculty perspective and public safety's perspective and students' perspective, and all of us coming together and trying to solve the problems of today. And it was nice to see everyone's talent like pouring in and just incorporating to try to change the world.
So I'm gonna free associate a little bit since we know each other well and I know a lot of your friends. Why don't you just say a word or two about Cameron Rutledge, a fellow classmate, a junior. What would you want the alums today to know about Cameron?
Well, Cameron Rutledge is also part of my posse, and he's a really great friend of mine. And he is a talented dancer, a chemistry major, very proud to be a chemistry major. And he is the Impact president. And his talent blows me out of the water. I look up to him. He's a man that I look up to.
Yep. How about Amy Reyes?
Oh my goodness, getting a little emotional talking about all these amazing people. Amy Reyes is amazing at computer science. I've never met someone more incredible at computer science. She's my math go-to girl. I thought I was the math girl. No, she definitely takes the prize, and she runs with it. And she's just an incredible artist. Her artwork's beautiful as well.
Well, so let me remind our viewers, if you'd like to submit questions, it's officehours@fnm.edu or hashtag FNMLive on Twitter. And let me thank, by the way, Mike from the class of 1966, James from the class of 1974, and Jamie from the class of 2013 for asking about this topic. I want to turn now to to FNM's Greek system. I'll start maybe with Dean Hazlett. As our viewers know, about 10 years ago, Franklin and Marshall re-recognized its Greek system, and we now have something on the order of 10 or so fraternities and 5 sororities. And would you say a little bit about what our goals are with our Greek system, and some of the signs of leadership that have impressed you so far?
Sure. I think our goal is to help the Greek system remain relevant in higher education today, and to provide opportunities for leadership development, for building community, for philanthropy, community service, and that's what our organizations are doing. Currently, we're getting them better connected with their national offices, because those organizations offer fantastic leadership training programs, and getting our students off campus to meet other members of their chapters from different colleges and universities. We have about 45% of our women are involved in sororities, and roughly 30% of our men are involved in fraternities.
Now, there's been a little bit of a national discussion about Greek communities and some concern at some of the best schools in the country that Greek systems are not aligned with the educational missions of the colleges or universities. How are we working to foster that alignment?
I think it's challenging our organizations to look at our current student population and saying, are you meeting the needs of today's students?
Yeah.
No, our international students joining these organizations, is it mirroring our student body as a whole? It does parallel because of our interest in leadership development and philanthropy and service, and this is what these organizations do so well.
Yeah. I really like the idea that students are accountable to one another in student leadership experiences, whether on a team or as an HA. The Greek system obviously fosters that accountability. Someone is the president, someone's the treasurer, someone's in charge of new recruitment. Each group inherits a tradition, and they're the stewards of that tradition. They must protect it and strengthen it, make it worthy of being passed on. Well, you've been an inventor of tradition in Greek life, having joined a fraternity a sorority that's brand new to F&M. And will you say a little bit about your experience, Christine?
So as a colony member of Alpha Xi Delta, I have been able to build my little flower from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And it's been an incredible experience. I wouldn't have met half the people I know today if it wasn't for this like home away from home and this flower. And I think it's definitely helped me realize who I am and realize the woman I could be.
Yeah.
And I owe a lot to what I've done here.
Yeah. So Alpha Xi Delta has how many members right now?
Right now, I want to say we're at like a little under 50.
First year.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what do you do?
We do a lot of academic stuff. I know our academic achievement chair, she is working very hard at getting people to realize their potential and just go to study hours and working really hard. We also do a lot of sisterhood events. We have movie nights, and I think, what did we watch recently? I think we're watching, I don't know. We watched, was it Clueless? We watched Clueless, I think.
You had laser tag with Sigma Pi.
We had laser tag with Sigma Pi, and that was a lot of fun. We got to see all of our competitive sides come out. I know that was I like laser tag because I want to be a law enforcement officer. So like I felt like I was being all cool, and it's just we're creating ourselves and we're creating who we are, and it's nice.
You know, one of the interesting things is the demographics of the country are changing considerably. We're becoming, in a sense, an older nation as people retire and move into their retirement years, but are still very productive. And our younger population is different in terms of where they grow up, more in the South, more in the West, more African American, more Latino, more Asian. The Greek communities of F&M are starting to reflect that multicultural American tapestry. Am I right about that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when I first arrived, it was a couple of like minority diversified, but now we have an incredible amount of international students joining fraternities and sororities, and I can only speak from my chapter, but we are a good number of diverse girls from different places, different backgrounds, and it's beautiful to see how we all work together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with all the other chapters on campus.
Turning to another question that several have asked, it's the intersection of the cost and value of higher education today. And of course, there's a lot of concern in society that higher education as we know it will be disrupted in some tremendous way, because the reality is tuition costs have increased faster than inflation for many years. Now, one reason for that, of course, is that in other sectors of the economy, technology allows for greater productivity. It's a lot cheaper to make a car or a computer today than it was 15 years ago. But it's not cheaper to have a seminar, because that's a very labor-intensive body of work. F&M has done a good job of containing cost increases relative to our peers while significantly investing in financial aid. And as a result, the average indebtedness of our students has actually gone down from $33,000 in 2012 to about $25,000 this year. And at the same time that's happened, the percentage of students receiving financial aid has gone up dramatically, from about 35% of students getting aid in 2008 to about 56% now. I want to ask each of you to reflect for a moment about what you think is the value of this education. We say to every family, you will pay what you can afford. We will give you the aid you need so that you can afford an education at Franklin and Marshall College. Admittedly, there will be some debt, but $25,000 of debt for 4 years of a great education seems worth it. Maybe some won't agree and think that the tuitions are simply too high and that the value is not there. But what would you say is the value proposition? What do you look at and say, well, makes it worth the cost? Anybody want to go first? Brandon?
I'll take it. I think, especially when I was being recruited to come here, the coaches, they had a lot of pitches, but especially what you were saying, it's not a 4-year decision when you decide to come to Franklin or Marshall or really any college. It's a 40-year decision.
Mm-hmm.
You get your diploma, you take your classes, but you make such connections that you wouldn't make literally anywhere else because you're in this moment, like you're at this space. So it's not even just the academics that you get from the school, it's the value of the people that you meet and when you meet them and what you do while you're here, the experience that, like, it's your own experience for you to take, and that is the value that that F&M or any other college really gives you to take for yourself.
That's fascinating the way you put it, that you have to take it. You have to create the value. The door is open, the resources are there, but also the student has to want it, has to be hungry for it.
I truly think that you do pay for a diploma, but you also pay for the opportunity to make your own future come true.
Yeah, that's really profound. Joel, any thoughts for you about the value?
I just look at these two students and I see the future leaders of the country.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a liberal arts education that you get here at Franklin Marshall enables them to achieve, that potential of leadership that's within them. They're gonna flower beautifully.
Yeah. Do you think it matters, Joel, to be taking seminar after seminar? Perhaps to have the chance, if you want it, to start to do research with faculty, as opposed to being sort of a more economical model where there's lectures and maybe even online classes. I mean, what's the value of the seminar and the faculty relationship?
I just keep coming back to this idea that there's no ceiling or cap on how much a student can learn here, how far she can go, how high he can rise in terms of knowledge and mastery of knowledge in a discipline. And that's what that research experience provides. And then that's going to empower them no matter where they go in business, in NGO opportunities, or in law enforcement, or wherever they go. They're going to have that experience of having mastered something, through their own discipline, working, and being tested rigorously in a competitive environment. And then they're going to be leaders in their field because of that.
Well, and that's, of course, one of the aims of the school. Ben Franklin created the institution in order to launch young people into opportunity and leadership and service to society. Virtually all of our students wind up getting second degrees and third degrees. Lots of students going to law school and business school and medical school. Public health is a great field. Something like 6-7% of our alums have PhDs. This catapults them into the next level of intellectual depth. And still, the questions continue because the price is high and because other models of education are not able to show the same kind of results. Margaret, as you think about the value, this is your career, as you made your life helping students develop. How do you know it's happening?
Well, the examples are sitting right with us, and to see these students and others take advantage of all the resources here on campus. I always think of Joel Eigen, Professor Joel Eigen, former provost of Don of Ware College House. He said, you can either go, what does he say, regular class or first class in this experience, and to go first class is take full advantage. And what's unique about F&M, for a small liberal arts college, we have a public health department. We offer a business program. You can do research with live monkeys in the vivarium. Those are unique experiences for a school this size.
Yeah.
And students take advantage of it, and that those skills that they build, that they take with them.
I think it's fascinating to see what students go on to do and the continuous learning that our graduates then have that lets them work at the highest levels. I mean, Wanda Austin's a great example. She was a math major from the Bronx at F&M, and she went on to get a PhD at the University of Pittsburgh, and now she is the president and CEO of the Aerospace Corporation of America, which means that Wanda Austin is responsible for all of America's space defense. Math major from the Bronx. Didn't know that was what she was going to be doing with her education, but the foundation launched her. Or Richard Plepler, who is the president of one of the most influential cultural organizations in the country, HBO. And Richard Plepler developed that ability to both understand business and understand culture. In a liberal arts education, it doesn't ask you to choose one or the other. Christina, anything as you sort of reflect about your college experience so far that you would say is the differentiating value for you that makes the sacrifice of your mom and you yourself worth it?
So I was actually going to quote my mom.
Yeah.
She said something at a big meeting about how coming to F&M is like her safety net, and she knows that I will be safe here and nowhere else. So she felt confident in F&M and the networks that I can make here to leave me here. She was if she wasn't happy, she was ready to take me back. But my mom was very confident in all the staff and all the faculty.
Yeah. Yeah, the individual touch and the fact that every single student will be known here is again something that you can't get at most other models of education. It's kind of interesting. Just a couple years ago, we had a number of our students competing for national fellowships, and we had Akbar Hussain, who won a Truman Scholarship, and Mona Lotfapour, who won a Mitchell Scholarship, and then two students who won a Pickering Scholarship, which sends a student into the Foreign Service and first to graduate school, then a student who won a Fulbright science, chemistry scholarship to study in France. And no other school in the country had winners in those 4 national fellowships. Not Stanford, not Amherst, not Duke, not MIT, not nobody except for F&M, because our students were so prepared academically, and then also were supported for the interview process. We have about 20 minutes left, so if you have questions, please submit them. We have an interesting one about the city of Lancaster. I'm so glad that Joe, one of our alums from New York, asked this question, because Lancaster has changed a lot since most of our alums were here, a great deal. And Joel, you were here in the 80s and 90s, and then you went away, and then you came back. It's a little like Rip Van Winkle waking up. There's a new Lancaster. What do you see?
It's transformed. I mean, the energy you have among the student body and among the faculty is reflected in the physical plan of the campus. There are all these wonderful new buildings that weren't here in 2000 when I left. Life science building and with philosophy in it, fabulous building, the college houses that Dean Haslet mentioned. The physical plan has changed also on the other side of the Harrisburg Pike. Used to be this industrial zone, and now it's this wonderful athletic facility coming online. The Liberty Street's going to connect right to the railroad track. You'll be able to walk to the train, pop over to Philadelphia, go see a show, whatever. The town has become much more urbane and cosmopolitan. There's a great food culture here. Every week someone mentions another farm-to-table restaurant that I'd never heard of. It's just amazing, the sort of food culture here. The arts culture. First night is just lively. It's like Mardi Gras downtown with all the art galleries being open and thousands of people thronging to go look at art every month in Lancaster. It's a transformed town.
Yeah, it's interesting too to see how we participate in the knowledge economy and use the changing way to participate in the knowledge economy to advantage the city. The mayor, Rick Gray, has done a tremendous job in attracting new businesses, startup companies, tech companies. We're about to become the first city in Pennsylvania to go wireless. Mayor Gray just announced that the other day. Sustainability is a major theme in the city, and also cultural fusion with lots of immigrants, lots of refugees, the Amish community, the long-term Lancaster community, and of course, Franklin and Marshall. Margaret, I know you've taken advantage of the city a lot in the county. What is it that you enjoy about living here?
Oh, I think you've got the mix of both. You've got the energy of a city, and then 5 minutes you're outside and I'm biking through the countryside of the Amish and dodging horse poop on the roads. But it's just the vibrancy, and to see a lot of F&M young alums staying in the area is fantastic. And some are working at F&M, some are involved in different organizations downtown, and that says a lot when you see young people sort of staying in the city and contributing to the city.
It's pretty cool to see about a third of the city coming to basketball games too, right? You notice that, don't you? It's not just the students that are there.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Did anybody recognize you on the streets of Lancaster now?
Actually, it's funny you say that, because I'll walk around campus, and I mean to be as humble as possible here, but like I'll have Mr. Larry Shadak, he requested to meet me through Dr. Hauser, and I was taken back. Like the guy who donated our library is a big deal in F&M history. Sit down conversation for a half hour, like a normal it was a great experience for me, and obviously it's crazy to see things like that, especially when you have such support from the town around you. Like during home games, that's why such advantages for me, especially because I had the support of the whole town, not
Yeah.
just my student body, and it makes me excel as a
Yeah.
person.
One of the big developments at Franklin and Marshall over the past few years is that we surveyed our alums about the things that they thought were strong, and the faculty-student relationship and the quality of student-to-student friendship and interaction was the top. We also heard about areas that were weaker, and one of the things that alums told us was that our career services were not at the level that they might have been at. Once they got in the world and realized the kinds of opportunities they had, they wish they had known more earlier. And so 3 years ago, we collapsed our traditional career center into a new entity, the Office of Student and Postgraduate Development, a bigger entity with advisors that focus on academic development and on career opportunities, on networking with alums, helping students learn their strengths. We're calling it OSPAGOD right now, as an acronym, and someday it will have a permanent name. But we're finding that students are coming to talk to the career coaches and sort of personal development advisors very early in their college experience to just talk about what they might want to do, and also that lots of young alums are connecting with our advisors later, after they've graduated. In fact, we hope that we're in a long-term developmental relationship with our alums as they move from job 1 to job 2 or grad school to job 3. So maybe as an opening question, Joel, could you reflect a little bit about the idea that the school can and should be strong at helping students leverage a liberal arts education for postgraduate opportunity? Is that a contradiction?
Not at all. I think, you've heard me talk about how we want to remove barriers to anyone who's talented. That's the first thing. We get them here, we don't want any ceilings to prevent them from going as far as they can. It makes sense to have the handoff mechanism, the infrastructure, the network, the coaches, the mentors, the sponsors, the pipelines to help them succeed. So that's the next step of the talent strategy.
Yeah. Christina, have you been to OSPAGOD yet or talked with any of our advisors there?
I have. I've met with Kathy Babs, and she basically has got me set to go and look for police academies and just little criteria. She went over my resume with me, and I didn't realize I can put certain things in to make myself sound a lot better. Because I was like, well, how does being a WARE-HA help me look appealing to law enforcement? She was like, well, you enforce the rules of the college house. And I was like, that's amazing. I just wasn't putting it together.
Yeah.
And also I visited her to do Myers-Briggs, and it's just.
And that's part of our goal, is helping students connect the dots, put it together. Margaret, you oversee this part of our work. Any reflections about its importance?
Oh, I just think Beth Throne and her team have just started. They start off in the first year, not first semester, allow students get settled, but second semester just doing some programming within the college house so people know that OSPAGOD is here on campus. Sophomore year, we have some sophomores who participate in the Harwood Leadership Seminar. Junior year, we start having boot camps and programs to get them thinking about internships, both during the winter break as well as during the summer. And then senior year, Life After College series to get them thinking about some of the realities of having to find an apartment, negotiate a contract, look at health insurance. So it's, the 4 years, and then after, as you were saying, Dan, connecting with our young alums.
Yeah. I love that idea that OSPAGOD, and for that matter, the college house system and the work with faculty, is responding to the whole person, the whole student, who, like Christina, is discovering what you want to do. It's not self-evident immediately for any of us in life. We're always thinking about new opportunities to grow. Well, you're only a first-year student, and we don't want to hurry you into thinking about life after college. But do you have any thoughts about what you might do in the upcoming summers?
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that because I'm actually already, well into the process. This summer, I'll be studying in Italy, in Tuscany, with the F&M in Tuscany program. We have an unparalleled Italian faculty here. My professor, Professor Pomponio. There's a Professor Lerner, him and his wife. Just even something like that. And when I go to visit OSPAGOD, I say, listen, I'm really, really passionate about Italian. I want to do something with business, maybe politics, the political spectrum. And they're pointing me to things in like say maybe the Italian the embassy in the U.S. or the U.S. embassy in Italy. Just they know how to connect you with what you want, and I think you can't get that experience anywhere else except F&M. And when you talk about cost and value, I think a lot of people they just think of the tangible money that they have to pay, and sometimes they fail to recognize the intangible things that come with that money that they're paying for. And I really just when people talk about value, I think there's no better value than F&M education.
And it's interesting, I think the world is hearing us because after all, we're setting a record for applications
Absolutely.
now, and the talent of the students applying is fantastic. This year we had an 80% increase in students applying whose math and verbal SATs combined were above 1,500. And we had a 46% increase in students who achieved the exalted status of national merit semifinalists. And our application growth has gone across every category, all fields, all backgrounds, all regions, but across 7,100 applicants, the actual depth of talent is even stronger. The average SAT of a 7,100 person application pool is 15 points higher than last year's 5,600, which was the second highest group in school history. I want to ask each of you to reflect a little bit about F&M as a place, as an idea, as a community, a set of aspirations, whatever is important to you at this moment in time. There's no real answer I'm looking for, but you're all so passionate about what you're doing. You make so much out of it for yourself and for others. And so, what is this moment now for F&M, for you? What matters now?
I'll take a crack. Well, it seems like the flywheel is really spinning fast right now, and there's a virtuous cycle that's occurring. And any improvement we make in career services, in the faculty, in the house system, in the Greek system, all across the board, they feed each other. As Lancaster improves, the campus improves. As the campus improves, Lancaster improves. It's a really exciting time to be here.
Yeah, and of course we thank you for uprooting yourself and coming back to Lancaster, and all that is entailed in a move and a transition. And thank you for everything that you do for the school, all the differences you make.
Thank you.
Anybody? Who's next?
I mean, if I can comment, I'm obviously still a first year. I'm still settling in, but as I mentioned before, this is my home away from home, and I think I'm not going to be able to go anywhere else. And when I go even from Brooks House to College Center, which is a 2-minute walk, and I'll be able to know and say hi to 90% of the people that I see just out on Hartman Green. Yeah. And when we, again, when we talk about value, just the value is evident and it's rising.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, keep it going.
Of course.
Keep it going.
Anytime.
The rocket ship is just taking off, right? Christina?
I think Brandon took the words out of my mouth. I was just, from where to class and Stager, I know I can bump into a million people, and then I'll be walking with one person and they'll be like, "You're so popular." I'm like, no, I network and I meet people and I want to have fun and I want to just meet new friends. And I'm thinking now, since you mentioned the weather, I'm thinking, okay, when it's springtime, we're all going to be doing homework out on the green, and music's going to be playing, and we're all going to be having so much fun while doing academics. That's what I'm looking forward to now.
Yeah.
So thank you for mentioning the weather.
Well, actually, you just reminded me of one of my favorite little stories. I have lots of Facebook friends in the student body, and we'll check each night on the news feed. And 2 years ago, when the first snow came, and it was maybe in November, I remember seeing Christine and all the other kids from Miami out running around in bathing suits in November. So that's going to get old. And sure enough, I haven't seen those pictures the last 2 years.
No one wants to play in the snow with me. I'm so disappointed.
Margaret, thoughts on this moment?
To me, it's the talent of the students and the level of engagement, and it just makes my work fun.
Yeah, thank you. Well, one of the things I think about is the power of community. And that as the school has made so many strides in recent years, building on an incredible base of faculty talent, of student talent over many years, a great reputation, and now we're moving in very positive directions. It happens because all of us together commit to one another. Our students are taking advantage of the opportunities. They're not taking it for granted. Our faculty are going the extra mile and making sure they get to know the student as a person. our professional staff that work here around the clock, universally, see the eminence of each person's need and care. And our alums have a huge role to play with our parents and with other friends of the school. You know, one of the ways alums can be involved, of course, is by being advocates for Franklin and Marshall College and telling others, getting the word out there that this is a great school on the rise, and it matters that this school is good, because if this school is good, the country is stronger. And I think also our alums can really help us by making regular donations, because after all, our ranking and our prestige in part comes from the perception in the world that the F&M alums believe they had a valuable education. And a $5 donation from a senior in college or from somebody who graduated 60 years ago does contribute to that larger perception that people that went here value what they achieved. I also think that our reputation is really rising in high school communities around the country. And that 7,100 application number wasn't an accident. It was a word of mouth achievement, because we're not using slick campaigns and brochures, and we're just talking to people about the school. But our alums can help us by joining the F&M Admission Network and by talking to students or going to college fairs and telling the story of why F&M made a difference in their lives. And another important factor of alumni contribution is to be mentors to our alums. I think that Ospegaud has about something like 700 to 800 alums who have raised their hand and said, well, I will be a mentor to a student as they're looking for a summer internship, or I'll talk to a student or a young alum as they're relocating to help them get their bearings in this job market. Well, in all those ways, you make a huge difference. Our supporters, our alums, our families, our friends, I thank you for logging on tonight. I ask you to take our case to everybody in your circle and make sure they know what an extraordinary community Franklin and Marshall is and will always be. And if they don't believe you, then tell them about Brandon and Christina and the other 2,300 students here, the faculty like Joel and the education leaders like Margaret. F&M is making a difference for our students and society, and we thank you for being a part of that.